Everybody, and welcome to another episode of Esoterics today. I am Amber Chamberlain, the suburban light worker, and I have with me my partner in this journey, Sitara Jules Lightbringer, the beautiful and illustrious. And today's show she will introduce, but let me say a moment or two about esoterics today in general. Sitara and I come highly prepared, not the least of which through our hearts, to talk about all things esoteric from a modern perspective, sort of that integration point that we're all needing in terms of daily living, daily well-being, with an understanding about what is esoterica and how to engage it for our daily 3D transfiguring to the 5D and beyond lives. That's the best way to put that, Sitara, right?
Yeah, I think that kind of works because it's so vast. How can you put it in a box?
You just cannot, my sister. You just cannot. What are we talking about today?
We're actually talking about energy. So it's quite a broad spectrum because that pretty much is everything everywhere. Nothing is without energy. So we just thought that we'd just throw that in the mix to just give a broader spectrum of color within what people think of as energy.
Why are we even bothering to go wide on the subject of energy, do you guess?
I think that the way that we are educated here in general on the planet allows us to put everything in nice little compartments. It allows us to segregate things very, very well. Once you start to evolve more within the variants of light worker journeys, you see that there is only one thing anyhow, playing out in different rates and ratios. So energy is a useful topic for people regardless of where they are on the journey, to be able to just see broader pictures and step out of more programming that has perhaps hung around a little bit from the whole education system here.
Well, and I think in our our mass media, certainly in the States here, certainly where you are in Europe, in the UK, we have been bombarded rapidly with what is energy. And thanks to the uptick in physics and quantum physics, the science of that, the general day-to-day, even kids have a sensibility about what is energy that then certainly I did when I was a youngster. I mean, the use of technology alone requires some assumption about how energy moves that kids get really, really early, even in their programming status, right?
Yeah, which is a totally different ball game now, isn't it, really?
It is, and you know, increasingly, your average consumer knows how to, you know, we see more people than ever going for mindfulness work, or if they're corporations, organizations, taking a mindfulness course or working mindfully, or yoga, meditation. We're seeing things become a little more inclusive where energy is concerned in those methodologies, as opposed to the exclusive terrain of our sort of weird spiritual, metaphysical kind. We're seeing it sort of become a more ubiquitous topic, even if people don't realize what they're talking about is energy and how to move it and how to be with it.
Yeah, very much so. And you're quite right. You know, even the people that are just into their martial arts will be working and moving with energy, unbeknownst to a great many of them, in such a spiritual manner. You know, the whole let's get the prana going, let's get the chi going, is very, very much a daily thing for most light workers. But you wouldn't necessarily, think that the odd black belt here and there, that's exactly what they do.
And I think from my childhood forward, and I'm over 50, see, I think I've seen a quantum leap occur. I don't think I'm mistaken when I can note that.
Yeah, not at all. I can, wind back the clock because I'm just about tapping on the door of 50. I'm only a couple of months away. So, and you watch it and see it. If anything had been spoken about any of the spiritual arts when we were kind of in school, college, university, people kind of looked at you sideways as if to say, okay, we've got another here. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll just order a jacket now. You'll be fine. I've only been let out for the day. Off they would go. They just look at you like you were like absolutely bananas. Whereas now, an awful lot of, especially when you get to sort of college age and university age, mindfulness is part of an awful lot of what's going on. Even when I did my teacher training, which was quite late in life, I only finished my teacher training 7 years ago. And even then, part of the way it was brought forward within the education system here then was very, very much the different ways in people were learning, the ways in which the same information could be presented to different people for them to be able to grasp it. Rather than when we were like in the true education system, shall we call it, it was put in front of us and we had to learn it. It's just, this is how it is and this is what you've got to know. Rather than this is what we want you to learn, how would you like to do it approach, which is kind of going forward now. And I think that is beautiful and just shows the different level of flow and understanding, even if the people who are rolling that out haven't got that awareness. They're still facilitating it.
But that's right. This whole piece of discussion, just talking to you all who are viewing this, by the way, we are putting this out in our various platforms, inclusive of YouTube, very shortly. So we're doing a video recording at the same time that the audio is going to be here on SoundCloud as well. But for those of you all viewing and listening, it's good that we can give you a little bit of a background what's happening culturally among the human kingdom around these themes. And energy, certainly we're seeing it in all its various formats, and that's what Sitara and I are talking about, just being more ubiquitous. But I know, and Sitara, you know, that the people who will come to this conversation today and who are here listening today, this is a pretty exquisite bunch. We know who you are. We know generally where you are in a consciousness patterning in the kingdom of humans, and we know what role you play as integrators and emanators. So given that preamble, I think we could walk right into see all the different ways we conceive and experience, you and I, energy, and a little bit of experiences with them, kind of getting descriptions of how they show up in our lives. Personally, I think giving people, because I think if we will lay bare our stories through this process, these conversations across time, it'll help folks say, yeah, me too. Or, oh, that's going to happen? Yeah, possibly. Or if a colleague of theirs or friend of theirs says, hey, this is what's happening, or one of their energy students, whether they be a massage person, yoga person, Reiki person, you know, whatever those modalities that many and most of you who listen to this are a part of, you'll know what's happening because you heard Sitara and I talk about it from our perspectives.
The randomness that we are.
Yeah. So, sister, give it to me. Give me, where would you like to start talking about energy? Give it to me.
Well, you know where I always like to start. I always like to start in at least the universe, if not the multiverse, and bring it down. So yeah, I just see everything as just a blend, personally, of Im and Om, which is light and sound, the original two elements that created everything and of which everything was born. So that kind of helps me and has helped me to get a kind of grasp on everything. That's the point that I come from, and just think, well, there's only ever two things, so we're only ever two things. So where's the separation?
So Sitara, be a little more explicit for our listeners and viewers as what is im and what is om.
Well, okay. We are mainly all familiar with, which is the very first sound. It was deemed to be the very first word. When a lot of the religious texts and paperwork comes forward, they talk about the word as being such a powerful thing. And the first sound was deemed to be om. The first light partnered the om very simply to be im, to just be one harmonic away from om. So this is why they're very close in how they sound, how they look, how they feel. And combined together, that was the beginning of the manifestation process of everything else that took on different harmonics and tones to be able to bring forward, first of all, color, and then what we perceive here as physical matter.
As we perceive as physical matter. Okay, because you brought up you brought up really the container of my favorite ways of talking about energy, most of all, because I think you're talking about the container for all aspects of energy.
Yes, yeah, the root cause of everything.
The root cause. So you really, I love that you started with im and om. And you guys listening and watching are very familiar with the om for certain. So I'm so glad that you talked about the im aspect. And you mentioned several things. You mentioned color, you mentioned sound, okay, you mentioned harmonics, color, sound, harmonics, and you're really talking about what I call creation energies.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
The very initial ones in the
right.
That's how I explain things.
I love that. I love that. So creation energies. Well, the first thing I think of, the first place I go, Sitara, is into physics. I go to wavelength, which is sound.
Yeah.
I go to particulate, which is matter.
Yep.
And when I go there, I think particles and waves.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think particles and waves, then I see constructs, mathematical constructs.
Yeah, so you're then going into the realms of like your sacred geometry.
Oh, yeah.
To start to then become the building blocks of something bigger than the geometry.
Bigger. And it was only in the last few years that it hit me like a ton of bricks, because you all listening to this, Sitara and I, as we're really getting to know each other, understand that while I was a pretty awake kid, an aware kid, and highly sensitive soul to the planet, I had big awakenings between 96, 2012, and 2016, 2012, 2016 particularly. Whereas Miss Sitara over there comes to this divine lifetime having remembered quite most everything, which makes her a spectacular colleague for me, and I think a brilliant person to engage in these conversations and listen to and learn from. That said, I think I'm probably Sitara representative of most of the people who are going to hear this and see this, in that stuff hits us like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. I learned this from people. I watch people. I have been blessed to avoid a lot of the tons of bricks. I've had a few skips land on my head. Fantastic stuff that I'd completely forgotten about. But yeah, different beast.
The reason I say that is because by about 2016, Sitara, that was when the quantum mechanics, quantum physics in the spirit science really downloaded on me, in me, alive. And very quickly behind that came quantum mechanics. And that's when particles and wavelength and then the laws of physics that this planet tends to still know, you can usually only work the math as wavelength or particulate, particles or wavelength. But it never, because of who I am, I don't differentiate necessarily. So from the, along with the particles and waves came toroidal spin, everything that had planetary spin, the axial alignments, came also holographics.
Yeah.
Okay, what we would maybe call a computer system energy, the holographs, the grids. I mean, just from that exploded.
Yeah, which is interesting. Because as I've got older, I see more and more as holographs. When I came in, I didn't.
What did it seem to you?
Memory of the sacred geometry that put it all together, but I hadn't actually kind of looked at someone as a walk-in holograph, which I do now.
Me too. And when did that, about what year, planetary year did that, Earth year, did that happen?
I would say that started to become full on in about 2012.
And I think that happened because, here's my interpretation of that, because that is when that started kind of bubbling up on me. I think we are representative of light workers in very different places at 2012. I didn't even know the word light work in 2012. See.
Okay, I'm there.
Okay. So here we are at 2012. You being you, me being me, and very, I think, and representative of maybe some and of our narrow kind.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that increasingly, those who are going to watch this and hear this, you guys are onboarding the conceptualization of hologram and holography. It didn't hit most of the people who are going to hear this and see this until really recently see. And those of you who are listening now, some of you are like, what did they just say?
Yeah.
What are they talking about? Hologram, computer program, planetary grid, cosmic grid. These are all energy related structures that come of the sacred geometry, which are, that's another thing to speak about for a moment. I woke up probably by about 2016 to the fact that sacred geometry, first of all, it came on for me in my inner world. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I literally started watching it behind my eyes. I write about that.
Yeah.
Which is how it comes to people. Hey, Sitara, on that question, let me ask you that. Sacred geometry, when did that really enliven for you?
It started with an event that happened for me in 1987 and went away.
Yes.
And came back in 10 years later when the major convergence was happening in 1997.
96, 97.
And then it calmed down again to smack me in 20. Because in a way it was like they gave me a chapter of the book and said, oh, right, here's the first idiot guide that you need to put together what you're remembering and what you know into this structure. And then they were like, yeah, she got the idiot guide. Okay, what can we do now? Oh, yes, we'll give her the intermediate guide. That was like the 1997. I was like, yeah. And they're like, she's flicked through that. That's great. She understands it, have it all. In 2012. And I was just like, hold on a minute, this is too big. Because I don't see within. When you were saying it was playing out behind your eyes, it plays out in front of mine. So it's like a complete all sensory video scene that I am a part of and an interactive part of, and it literally plays out around me. And that isn't usually timed particularly well by my team that bring that forward to me. It's getting better.
Of course not.
That while I'm driving. You think I would like to see the road, not this fantastic spinning toroidal gold beauty you've put in front of me. I want to see if I'm going to hit the car in front. Pay attention to this wonderful bit of kit you've just given me.
Okay, you just brought up another really spectacular issue with energy, and it's downloading, which, let's be clear with everyone here, that when we talk download, we're not really talking about memory, and we're talking about multidimensional remembrance of the Akash.
Yes.
Okay. We just use very linear words to communicate because we're doing this in a transfiguring third to fifth modality. So we have to use this kind of language about memory. But what, Sitara, you're presenting is the nature of energy and the energetics that are hitting our tribe in these timed releases. And quite frankly, the energetics that are being remembered don't give a damn. If you're driving, if you are, having a meal with your friends at a restaurant, if you are,
watching a film.
Yeah, it is shocking. And I've had a lot of what I call cosmic shock for the energetics that I've seen externally. The sacred geometry piece, and the reason I brought up sacred geometry and asked you about that, well, there's a couple of things. Remember who Sitara and I represent, and many of you are as well, but then a larger proportion of you are not, who are listening and viewing this. Sitara and I are representative of what are considered forerunners. Okay, forerunners have a longer arc and tend to be a little, we tend to be a little bit, actually, see, I think you and I represent some of the younger forerunners for this latest intensive energetic upheaval or shift.
Yeah, very much so, because there's so many people at the moment that are just coming into this.
Right, and they're getting the bag of bricks that I'm referring to, and that's why we'll hear that, and they're out there going, "What's happening to me?" And they're running into the phrases like ascension flu, some of the catchphrases that I understand that, and that's the bag of bricks I'm talking about. It can lay you out, and these energies can really lay you flat. You can be driving down the road, as Sitara described in the late 80s. And have this incredible form come in a geometric patterning and just in your vision range, in your vision field. And I'm going to ask you in a minute to describe what's real. Can you describe what is really happening when that occurs, Sitara? The reason I'm bringing up sacred geometry, the last thing I want to say before Sitara kind of describes that energetic when it happens, is that sacred geometry operates as the building blocks, the building forms for all civilizations, all that is. And Sitara, that for me only came at about 2016 as well. That hit me hard when I realized that I'm holding in place geometric form, which is evidenced by a lot of other principles that humans already know about. But Sitara, describe the nature of the energy that you're looking at when you're looking at a geometric, sacred and otherwise geometric form that occurs when you're driving down the road. What's it made of?
It is made of Im and Om, light and sound. Depending, most of the sacred geometry that I'm giving in that way to look at, to understand and then go deeper within for, because it's get this film playing that can be minutes, hours, whatever's going on, depending on how complex this is just bringing that into your attention. It's reminding you that you already know all this anyhow, but here's a visual to just really make sure that you're getting this next layer, because this is what you should be working on now and you're ignoring it. So it's almost like a wake-up call in front of you to go, hello, here I am, you know, to kind of, as I say, for me, it's usually in that form, I will see it usually as gold.
Oh, I see it. Just for you saying it, it is a gold. Now
Yeah,
that's another form of energy, Sitara. What just happened between Sitara and I right there?
Yeah.
So what Sitara and I did when she brought the orb up to begin with, it immediately showed itself to me, because what's also happening in an energetic framework to a lot of our kind is telepathic communication, of thought patterns, of emotional patterns, of structures, geometric structures. So when she spoke it, I saw it. You'll notice that you all do that too. And what she also said, which I love, is you get that example was a what maybe we could call a cosmic commercial.
Yeah. It's a little snapshot. Very, very much so. Because if I was working on you as a person, so when I work on any of my clients and I look at them in a holographic nature, my clients aren't gold. My clients are a totally different color framework. Mm-hmm. See the outline framework and then the major issues framework as two separate colors. And then if I need to see what's working and what's not, I then see the gold flow within to be able to see where an energy block is, or to see what is missing in the motherboard of that person, shall we call it?
Yes, we should.
Yeah, to just see what chip is missing or what's blown or what needs to be done next, to be able to correct that flow and to be able to work with that person to explain that flow in a 3D way for them to be able to work with me. So between us, we can get the flow going.
Now, what my guides will show me, you know, my counsel, which is all, and by the way, that's another energetic story we're presenting here. Sitara just, I feel like I'm a little bit of an interpreter. So to say that what Sitara you're describing is the way that your blueprint, your energetic design and soul signature that we all have, you have your own, as you each listening to this do, way of viewing energy and way of engaging it and working with it. And what Sitara you're describing is being able to see a system, an energy system, be able to see where the hiccups are.
Yep.
And go address the hiccups.
Yeah.
And you and then the gold patterning is you addressing the hiccups.
The gold patterning can be what's working perfectly that might be hiding the hiccups. Yeah,
oh.
The different layers within. See, because my speciality is to move people forward spiritually rather than healing per se.
Or even better language, I think, Sitara, is your specialty is as a holographic projection of the soul engaged with you, is bringing their natural designed capability to move themselves forward.
Very much so. Very much. Because it's always, you know, a two-way traffic thing. You know how it works. We join together with others of our kind and we create wonderfulness.
And then I think that that's the brilliant beauty of what we can understand about energetics today, and how quickly people are awakening to their own healer design. I always say that very biblical phrase, physician, heal thyself. Mm-hmm. And if you are me and I am you, which we are, yes. and if this is, and everything I'm doing in this moment is a holographic projection of me, this conversation is only mine.
Yeah.
And that this conversation is only yours. And we are holding, now listen for the energy story in this. What we're doing is holding an energetic structure built on sacred geometry and other geometry, all geometry, particles, wavelength, color, sound. We are alchemically holding this. I'm doing this for myself.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
You're doing that for yourself. You as the viewer and listener are, you have electromagnetic, now listen to the energy. You have electromagnetically connected to the vibratory resonance of this moment, and it's all you. And to me, that is...
It's huge, isn't it? That everything is just me, or everything, however we want to see that playing out across the whole of creation.
And I think that that's why it was important for us here on one of the very beginnings of our show conversations, right? To position all of these musical notes.
Yeah, exactly. Because, this is how it works, isn't it? We get the theme going. That theme is a song. I'll go biblical and call it the Song of the Morning Stars, because it seemed to be the original sound, because light created the morning star, and when they were created they sang together, which talks about the harmonics on a physical level of the light that was projecting from the first celestial bodies.
Oh my gosh, see, that is, for me, just as listening to your words as you describe that, my inner world goes with you there. Yeah. And I can I have the sensation of feeling it and being there, seeing what you see, feeling what you feel. And I think, and it's spectacular. On that note, I was reminded to say that our star families are particularly interested in the music we create on this planet.
Yes, because we're a noisy bunch on this planet.
We are a noisy bunch on this planet, but our classical composers, because they say to me that we have gotten, that our classical composers, say our Bach, Beethoven, Franz Liszt, our Ode to Joy, and all those kinds of, for Eloise, that they are as close to the sounds, maybe you're saying, of the morning star.
Yeah, very, very much so. A lot of the classical compositions being very much string instrument based gives a very high pitch resonance, and it is that sort of high resonance that they're talking about. So they're talking about it from a vibration point of view, because of course they don't separate sound and vibration.
Right, it's just existence.
So therefore it's just that particular energy that is brought through that goes with that. Yeah, I was listening earlier today actually to the Planet Suite for exactly that reason.
The Planet Suites. Now who or what
Holst.
are
they? It was Holst. Yeah, and he actually composed a whole set of planets. So you can start off with Venus and go through the whole harmonics of Venus, and then he moves on to Jupiter, etc.
I've never heard that. Holy cow.
I will have to share a link to find it then. But yeah, I've got it in my stereo here today.
I have totally got to hear that. So again, as listeners are going here and viewers, so you see sort of the complexity, but I hope you're also hearing and seeing the beauty, the rapturous beauty of the energy narratives and the energy stories that we are aware of now, and particularly as a growing tribe, because and I don't know, Sitara, what you think from this perspective, but I think that it's all a timed awakening, and that the reason so much is being onboarded, the Akasha is being remembered in these ways, is because we're to alchemize. We are to participate in the alchemy consciously while in form.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about like the timing of it, because I always kind of start to get twitchy as I'm watching the next sort of convergence approach. So our next big convergence is 2021, and I can feel that coming already. And the way I sort of see it and perceive it, if you think that every thought process, word, and energy has been stored within the greater consciousness or the acacia or akashic, however you want to, term that holding place for it, it releases when it gets to a certain percentage of understanding in layers. So as we converge, another layer is kind of released. It's like, let's just add another library to the library that exists and let them go into the restricted section. Like we do, they'll let a few in to go, oh, wow, look at this. And off we go to play with the next layer. Mm-hmm. That is very much how I perceive it. I do see it, though, as a two-tier thing, is how it's been sort of presented back to me, that we like the greater consciousness or acacia, which is really based around this planet and as far away perhaps as the solar system to contain the information here, for us to really experience the human in all the wonderfulness we can experience it. Other than that, there is something called the Kahonic records, which then span everywhere else. And as we move up through the acacia, we start to get access to various parts of the Kahonic records to be able to have a greater understanding of not only this universe, but the omniverse and the whole of creation.
Can you spell how our tribe and how our humankind spell that word? Or
Kahonic. It's spelled a couple of ways. When I was given it, I was made a point of saying it was a Ka, as in K-A, and then Honic, H-O-N-I-C. However, I know that some spell it K-O-H-O-N-I-C, but it's one and the same, basically.
So what we're introducing here to our conversation now is beyond the energetic library of the Akash, or all that is, in terms of what the human kingdom has remembered,
yes,
and can remember, and is experienced and remembers experiencing, to the then Kahonic, which resides in a linear fashion. It could reside above the Akash or around another layer or another ring out, if we're
and it's very much the Kahonic that are making us aware of our other fractal aspects, having other experiences in different suits across the whole of the universe. When we have the awareness that we know we're everything, so therefore we're every single being that has existed, whether you want to look at that as a flesh being or crystal or tree, organic, however you want to kind of look at it. But that sort of Kahonic layers, as they start to release, first of all, we start to see that we are this planet and we are everything within it, which is mind-blowing. And then we kind of realize that actually we're the solar system, and then we just go out from there. And then we start to look at the different planets that we're looking at and the different flora and fauna across the universe. And it's tapping deeply into that Kahonic that is bringing that forward.
And I like the reminder and the alerting us to the concept that There are rooms within rooms within rooms. And by the way, I would say physics, metaphysics, particularly mechanics, right? Quantum mechanics would tell us that there are subspaces and within subspaces within subspaces.
Yeah.
And this is really, and in my experience, Sitara, we get access to those spaces, the parts of the library that have the rope off. We and I hesitate to use this word, but I think it's accurate in a linear fashion. We earn them. We earn them by our attention to our well-being and our well-being, our you know, the timing. We sort of have met some kind of alignment. Not an achievement is not like we've gotten better. We've just become ready.
Yeah, we've just expanded with that, and we've got the space for that next set of awareness.
Right, which then we get into that room. I used to dream as a child. I would dream about an entirely different home. And I would go into it by crawling through the top of my closet with a ladder. And it was an incredibly beautiful house within my house. That's how spirit used to alert me to the construct. Of course, now my sister,
I have beautiful, though, isn't it?
On this planet, I know probably 12 homes, and I go to them, and mostly during the dream time, during the waking dream period. What is this? Probably, let's talk about energy from this perspective. Let's talk about brain waves, theta waves. I go to other brain states. You do too. People do. The people listening here, but being able to investigate that by conscious choice is another way. That's why I was saying about why I'm thinking we're all beginning to have this now, because we're to alchemize, be able to be masters in form, awakened masters. I mean, I can see why. And I joke with Sitara. I think in the last week we had a big old laugh about what I call cosmic porn.
Yeah.
Very. You know, all of that fantastical living and relationships and sensualities and color and sound that is so transcendent that we don't ground it into our daily third dimensional transfiguring to the fifth life.
Yeah.
I can see why that becomes very special.
It is hilarious. And I love the phrase. I love the phrase cosmic porn. Just, yeah. We have all seen that person in the street.
I've seen them on the internet more than I have the street, but that's just me. That's my neighborhood.
Well, perhaps I'm just blessed locally by a few. I just think that's brilliant. I just carry on and just think, okay, how it is for them today.
No, and I'll tell you, and I think that's another part of when we talk about energy and ways to conceive it. I think that there's something, and in us talking about it so plainly, one of the things I've long wanted to do, Sitara, was to remove the cosmic voyeurism.
Yeah.
I wanted to remove because within our tribe, within our community, and I found this on the, internet quite widely as I was in the 2012 to 2016 environment of unfolding. I couldn't go out in my neighborhood and say, hey, anybody know about this? I was already weird, and I just got weirder, right? And I was like, and my neighbors were already didn't even know the way I was weird to begin with. Mm. So there was nowhere to go with that. So you go to the internet.
You haven't got that jumpsuit yet. That is a sort of white brotherhood with, you know, some sort of spaceship on your head to go out with. How disappointing.
But I think I'm speaking for the bulk of who's going to listen to this and who's going to see this. I think, you know, I cannot, I guess, somehow in this, and you brought up another aspect of energetics, right? Is angelics. And so the angelic realm, the white brotherhood components of ascended masters.
Yeah.
These beings are quite clearly an energetic being. When we consider, we will forget to consider ourselves just as energetic. We're just vibrating into a third dimensional reality. And the ascended masters used to walk in the third. We're in the third.
Yeah, very much. You know, and again, we are the ascended masters.
Talk about that. Help us. Help us. I love this.
When you think that we are everything, so therefore where we have encountered every vibration throughout the whole of creation, so where do we have lack? We can't have lack because we're everything. If you're everything, what are you missing? Oh, let me guess, nothing.
Girl, I just love your sense of humor. Your little
yeah, it's a twisted British sense of humor, unfortunately.
But it says it so well. I cannot. Some things, I always say some things are better said in French, but now I'm also believing that some things are better said with a British accent.
Yeah, I think it's cursing is supposed to be the best way is French.
Oh my God, yes. And for those of you, as we're thinking about ascended masters, you know, I want to give you an example of how I engage the ascended masters. I'll give you one about this very conversation with Sitara. So I said to myself, selves, to Sitara's point, which ascended master would like to sort of overlight and show up in this conversation? And the ascended master was Freya.
Ah, yes.
You aware of Freya?
I am in.
Okay.
And the Nordic roots from a sort of planetary perspective.
So I'm going to give us a nice little picture of Freya. Isn't she lovely? Isn't she beautiful? Okay, I love this rendition. But she really wanted to show up, and I thought, well, okay, what for? And that was because we're in such a time of ending, which is, and we're in a new beginning. And that's to Sitara, your point about 2021.
Yeah, totally. So we're coming up to the, you know, conclusion line to a certain degree, because with every set of sort of energy that we have, it's almost like we have to close the door on the old energy to allow the new door to open fully to embrace it. And we're very much in that transitional period now. Last year, particularly, we're starting to close that door, which is so many people went through so much, for want of a better expression, crap in their lives. Really shook up relationships across the whole spectrum with who they were going to move forward with, but more importantly, who were they not going to move forward with. So a lot of shake-ups last year that will continue over the next couple of years, but it really, you know, the amount of people that I've been aware of that have had complete, especially relationship changes with their significant others, has been huge, because suddenly realize they're not singing from the same hymn sheet and perhaps can't even see the same hymn book, let alone the same chorus to get on with. So they're really starting to sort of segregate and congregate and move towards those that are.
I know for myself, that I've gathered my tribe closer to me in my physical reality. In other words, I put a call out. What is it when? What's the phrase called? And it's beautiful. It's Nordic. Speaking of Freya,
Mhm.
what is that called when you sing into the woods? You sing across the valleys and the dales. It's there's a word for it. Do you
There
know what
is
I'm
a
talking about?
word for it, and it's escaping me too. Hello.
Yeah, and some of the listeners and viewers may know what I'm talking about, and it might come to me. But I was aware that I've been singing see the harmonics. I've been
Yeah.
singing my tribe to me,
Yes.
um, and bringing them in, creating new relationships, refining relationships, and then letting go of, closing up relationships, which includes work and work format and style,
Mhm.
approaches, ways of talking, ways of presenting myself. And it's still going on. My whole business is in a refurbish. And I think yours is too.
Yeah, I don't think it could be anything else at this time because it's like the old paradigms, it's gone.
It's just evaporated.
Ways of working. I kind of look because it's like I spent over 20 years constantly training in so many different
Me too.
light work modalities,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
different light work modalities here. And I kind of look at that now and none of them resonate anymore.
I
It has
even,
flipped.
sweetheart, even the way of presenting myself and coming out that occurred post 2016, that first passage, and that tribe and community is behind me now.
Yeah.
That's why we find ourselves having this caliber of conversation and this kind of teaching, in this, how should I say, it's almost the kind of combination we're doing right now. The
Yeah.
etheric, energetic conversation reflected on the daily well-being of the individual who's being able to hold it
Yeah.
and integrate it and
And
not
the
just
awareness as well that we may all be the same, but we are playing out as individuals with every single one of us is unique. So
yeah.
the old paradigm very much had this is how you heal someone, this is how you do it, that's what you do for everybody mindset. Where we've moved into now is a case of, well, you can't really explain how you're going to work with this person because until you tune into them and see where they're coming from and where they're at, you will then just be able to fix on whatever level you need to fix on. Rather,
and
this is the fix.
and that is such a key point. I've been saying for a couple of years, the age of the guru is behind us. It has come
Yeah.
past. Physician, heal thyself. Now, the other reason, I think another good reason for this energetic conversation, and I'm sorry, I've had some information coming in this way, and I've got an earth download going on here for just whatever the conversations we're having is, so
Yeah.
interesting what goes on in my ears for some years now. But I was having some personal staccato going on in this ear, and our connection was getting weak on the system. And did you see that message? Connection.
Mhm.
Now we're back to that. I said, okay, guys, help us out. And then this ear, the earth did some talking. But what I'm saying in response to you talking about when we are working with clients, and many of you listening to this work and watching us today work with clients in energy work in one form or fashion or multiple. I think the reason the subject was so important to us today is that we know that you're being asked to understand even more about energetics and how to alchemize and how to almost make miracles, what we would historically have called miracles with it. You're being asked because of your consciousness at this point, which is quite high in
Yeah.
comparison to the rest of the planet. We are the early bringers of this new dawn.
Yeah,
And what you're
totally. And, I see the old way of teaching and bringing stuff forward had great value when we were very much thinking inside those boxes. but we've actually torched the boxes now because we were fed up of being contained within such a small container of possibilities that we've broken down those boxes and said bye-bye, and we now are looking for everything to be limitless. So because we've moved to that mindset of we can do anything because we are everything, so therefore everything will react to us, to a new level.
We're at a new level.
You know, it doesn't fit in the box anymore.
And it doesn't fit in the box anymore. And I'll tell you, I cannot say how, and we're winding down in the hour here pretty quickly. What I can say is it took a village to break out of the box. I want to point out, that it was no one individual soul.
No, it was a complete collective suddenly said, oh, look, there's a box. Where's the petrol? Let's just light it. Let's make sure the box no longer exists, not only for us, but for any that are walking around behind us. Let's get rid of, their boxes and show them that it's possible for them to step out and go by box.
And when enough people, that's the great description for the great narrative, because when enough can do this, how that happens in an alchemical way, in an energetic way, is we take everything we know about creation energies, vibratory resonances, thought forms, conscious awareness, monadic awareness, I'm saying it in as many ways as I can, atomic, subatomic, that shift from carbon base to crystalline base, all of this pressure, energetic pressure, really broke down that grid, that what some people, Sitara, would call a false matrix, right?
Yeah, very much so.
A synthetic matrix. I like to bring in as much language that compares to what Sitara and I and Pendle are talking about. That's Pendle. Yeah. And I'll give another example of a usage of an ascended master energetic. So I've been personally, as many on this planet are today, frankly, are working with always our Saint Germain. For me recently, Saint Germain popped back up and said, knock off the drama. Anywhere, Amber, in your life where there is drama of any kind, knock it off. Do what needs to be done to release it and come back to the neutral path, the 0 point.
Yeah, take the balancing point, which is what we'll experience in the human vessel to reach.
The other example I thought it would be helpful to give from an integrative standpoint, and I think Sitara, when we wind up here, I want to make mention, because we had talked about this and we just forgot to say this to each other earlier, which is after this show, you all listeners and viewers, be on the lookout for a piece from each of us around the use of energy, sort of what we would call an energy activation or energy trigger that we can share with you if you'd like to have something from each of us on that. But to this, as we head towards the end of our show, I wanted to bring forward here, it's so tiny and sweet. This is my little itty bitty Vera Cruz amethyst. I mean, look how small that is. Remember, guys, the size of the crystal does not matter. It really doesn't in this instance. And this is another, certainly crystals are a major natural resource of energetic engagement and connecting with all that is, the Im and the Om from the beginning of the show. She wanted to be with us. I actually turned to my stash and said, who wants to come for the show? And the Vera Cruz popped up, and I thought, well, how tiny and beautiful
is
as
that?
Another example of energy.
Yeah, totally. proper little powerhouses. Ironically, in the cabinet behind me, which you can't really see that much of, I have got a shelf that is my purple shelf and has a lot of amethyst in there and Veracruz. So that is directly behind where I decided to sit today.
It's perfect.
They're
That's
just
perfect because
they're so delicate in look, but they're so powerful.
yeah, nothing to mess with. If you want to get with star family communication, if you want to have a convo in any way, ascended master, first of all, you can just do it because you say so. Let's make no mistake. But if you like to have a little bit of an anchor and a little bit of fine tuning with it, just get out your amethyst. I think that we did the job for the moment. I mean, there's certainly a discussion around the crystal pillar. Maybe that could be one coming up, or there's so many things that we could talk about with energy. But I thought, Sitara, that you and I did a good job of just verbalizing a suite of narrative around energetics.
Very much so, because it's such a vast subject that you could spend an hour show on it from now to the day we died weekly and still not cover energy. But, it's good to kind of just give some little takes on where, perhaps we're coming from and where we operate from at the moment. Because let's face it, this time next week, we won't be operating from this point anymore because we're moving so rapidly at the moment, we'll be different people again. Which, again, is just another layer of energy that is just coming forward and being moved away at the same time.
We shed our bodies every 70 days?
Yeah.
70?
So, it's just over a couple of months. For a full cellular regeneration and a full organ regeneration, it takes 3 months. Wow.
Wow. Wow.
So just for us a year then.
Oh my God. So I think I'm going to then bring us home, Sitara, and say this is another really delicious episode of Esoterics Today with myself, Amber Chamberlain, the Suburban Lightworker, and our divine Sitara Jules Lightbringer, just Lightworker extraordinaire. And
you now understand why it says jewels in the middle.
Are you kidding me?
Element of energy.
Element of energy. I never missed that. I thought this is my sister under the skin right here. It's even in her name. And
perhaps I need to change it to kilojoules.
Kilojoules. And I am Amber Chamberlain. My first name is in my last name, Amber laid in a chamber.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Dawn. So Amber Chamberlain for the dawn. I think, wow, how this all happens. It's a miracle. So you all, I'm hoping that you found something here that was delightful, that you could taste and feel, that something here will trigger you to run off and do some digging around and learning, or just asking your guidance, your counsels, really, who are all you anyway, yourselves, and let yourself be free to investigate. Certainly Sitara and I are here for you to help you go further than you could have ever imagined. Our show is here for that. Our individual teachings are here for that. Come see us as you need to and like to. But we will be back here in a month hence with another show conversation, but we will be back more shortly with a couple of brief, what we would call maybe activations or demonstrations of energy work. So stay with us, come back to SoundCloud, come back to YouTube and all the other places that we'll be. Very much love everyone. Sitara, I'll let you take it out.
Okay, well, thank you very much for taking the time out to just spend this hour with us. As always, we're very grateful for any that join us at these sort of meetings. Very much the coffee cup around the table. unrehearsed, let's see what we're going to come up with today meetings. But that kind of is how our kind work. You know, if we script things, it doesn't work. If we plan things, it doesn't always work. So we just, what I term, wing it. So I hope you've enjoyed being on our wings today, and we will speak to you in a few weeks' time. Much love across the universe to you all. Bye.